challenges that he faced during the pandemic. Firstly, during the first total lockdown, he said he was preparing for his research proposal. The lab that he used to do his experiment and collect data for his preliminary study was not accessible anymore. So he felt lost. He resulted in losing that semester. He couldn't progress in his study. And he felt disappointed and worried. Said he came from abroad, traveled from his country to do his research, which he couldn't at that time because of the pandemic. He understands that it was all over, around the world and all students were doing this, but he personally, that is how he felt. Also, he was a self-sponsored student. His family supported him. And with the semester wasting away, that is how he felt. He said, I'm quoting his word, the semester fee and expenses were considered wasted and he felt lost. He said even though he didn't use the campus facilities like the lab, workspace, the library, or any other services, he felt it's not fair that the university charge the fees on the students. I'm just relaying his writing. Actually, he wrote some notes. So like everyone else, he stayed in his room for months and couldn't progress in his study due to the inaccessibility of the lab and campus. At the same time, he was in communication with his family. That is how he coped with the situation, with being alone in his room because he could not meet his friends. He could not go out, and that communicating with his family back home is the only way he's coping his the challenge of the pandemic. The second challenge was meeting with his supervisor. He had several online meetings using WebEx, said it was not good or as effective as the face-to-face meetings. He said he can't express himself properly or communicating, which express body language to make the communication better. And so it was not a very effective way of communication. Plus, sometimes there was connection problem due to everyone using internet in the hostel. The third challenge he had was due to economic issue, which resulted in losing the support of his family financially, because the pandemic affected everyone around the world, including his family. So kind of family income was badly affected, and Ali was alone in Malaysia and depending on his family, and now things change with the financial problem. So he felt really stressed and worried of losing his study, and no one was there to help him, especially financially, worrying about the fee. And so to solve this situation, he started looking for a job related to his previous experience as a lecturer in his home country. Unfortunately, he couldn't find any, partly also because he was still an international student and he hasn't got his master. So to overcome this problem, he started looking for another type of work that related to his skill in IT. And thanks God, he managed to find a small freelancing work. It helps to cover his study fees and a bit of relief for him and his family to continue his study, but still stressful for their high workload, and he has to study at the same time. For your information, I know Ali received one semester scholarship from the one semester tuition fee, scholarship from a religious minister, if I'm not mistaken, just for one semester. That was a big help, big relief for him and his family. The last challenge and recent challenge was when the university enforced a compulsory for all university students to take the vaccine, the experimental vaccine. He said, although he knew it was a university rule and he personally could not take the vaccine due to personal reasons, which he shared with me. I'm not sure whether I can release it here. So he was asked to leave by the accommodation to vacate his room as soon as possible. He felt threatened. He felt that the university threatened him to leave his room if he didn't take the vaccine by a certain date. So fortunately at this time, he already submitted his corrections for defense proposal. So it was a blessing in a way, because now he can focus on finding a new accommodation or looking for one and look how to cope with the stressful situation. At the same time, his supervisor also told him that he has to get a new main supervisor because his supervisor was leaving the university. For his side, he appealed to the university to let him stay so that he can access the lab and continue with his research. Oh, by the way, during a little bit of relaxed time during the lockdown, he managed to enter the lab. Sorry, I'm turning back again. He managed to enter the lab to collect his preliminary data. So it helped a lot for him to complete his research proposal. Now, coming back to present, he appealed to the university to access a lab so that he can collect his data, do his experiment, and get the right study environment. But he received a heavy and long reply from the university management. So no choice, but he was forced to move out from his room. He felt very distressful. And for your information, his problem in finding another accommodation was not just to find affordable place to study now that he is an international student and budget is limited. The house owners mostly don't accept foreigners, or even if they do, they will ask for 3 times deposit for the rental deposit. So that was his problem. That is his problem. And now the problem not accessing the university is not just limited to this. The compulsory rule is also to take the experimental vaccine, also prevent him, stopping him from accessing the lab, workspace, library, or even do any transaction with the international office for visa renewal or the faculty academic office. He said, honestly, he's not sure how he's going to continue his study now without accessing the lab for his thesis. He feels that seems like no one cares. That's all for now that he wants to, he can share. So thank you for that is his presentation, his sharing. Thank you. I leave it to Dr. Ireen.
Thank you, Dr. Amrita, Lily, Muhizam, Yazrina, and Ali for the insights on the experiences of the students. So it's we are at about 10:50. So I give the platform back to Dr. Doria for the remainder of the program.
All right, thank you, Dr. Ireen and team for the presentation, different sides of presentation, despite the multiple challenges that came about. Ali couldn't come in. I'm still waiting for him at the moment. And then Lily were on and off throughout the session. But despite that, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points in total that was highlighted through this session. Number one, students are having issues doing networking, ability to access facilities, economic difficulties, knowing that they have to manage their own funds and expenses throughout the study here, having access a conducive environment for learning. This is highlighted by Lazarus extensively just now, especially in terms of what are the software and equipment required to handle your work as a graduate student. Vaccination issues is something that we have not ventured in. The current regulation is that you have to be vaccinated before you're allowed to enter the university compound. So for students who would not be able to access vaccines, this might serve as an issue for them. And but on the other hand, if I can highlight what Lily and Dr. Amrita mentioned just now, the community is in general very supportive, is very helpful. I would say very I like what Lily used in terms of the word compassionate. The COVID-19 pandemic has shown that yes, policies can be amended to fit the best situation. We again, I agree with what Dr. Amrita mentioned. It's not. We find it hard to imagine that the graduate school would like to. Graduate school is able to amend policies to allow for example, online viva, online submission of thesis and so on. So that's that. Let me go and check the question. We have one question actually. Let me see if I can project it. All right, you should be able to see a web page. So let's see. So there is one question. Thank you to Dr. Ting from International University. How do you ensure students' assessment quality, especially plagiarism issue, for example, plagiarism in assignments and final exam? Dr. Irene and Tim, any response for this?
I think for during this time, each institution has probably looked into how best to moderate the student assessment issue. Some institutions invested in online proctoring software such as Mercer Metal, you know, where the system ensures that the person who is there taking the exam is the person. And for some learning management system, they embed Turnitin as a requirement for assignments. So those are some of the things the universities can think of, especially in this area of ensuring that the quality of the assessment is still maintained. So it still has to be a software issue, or it has to be a behavior issue, meaning you need to get your students to think about the ethical part of writing. So there's no one size fits all, but it's the ability of the institution to invest in that resource to ensure that whatever online work is done will be the one that the university can accept based on the standard set. So it is an investment issue, an investment, and how much the university would want to look into the online platforms to ensure all these submissions are where we can reduce the possibility of having plagiarism being something that is, you know, going out, getting out of hand, for example.
Thank you, Dr. Irene, for that. Anyone else would like to add on?
Yeah, Dr. Irene, I will just add on. I agree what you said. And the other things are, I think we did not have essays and assignments for PhD supervision, but in general, when we teach postgraduate students, I think thinking more creatively about the assignments was another opportunity this COVID pandemic gave us. You know, we had to think out of box to create assignments which did not need proctoring, actually. Some creative assignments like their reflections or their personal experiences or something which they can do practically and report, making small videos, recording themselves and explaining the concept, or I mean, of course, with those technology like the online proctoring and plagiarism tools, we could catch certain things, and we could do the quizzes, live quizzes, which will run within a given time, where it gives less opportunity for students to cheat or do some kind of things. But for other formative assessment, I think this was also an opportunity for us to think of alternative assessment, more creative assessment, which did not have the issue of plagiarism. But as Dr. Ireen mentioned, I think the most important thing was to let students think more ethically. This was a time which it prompted all of us to go unconventional way, and this was also an opportunity for students also to think about their ethical responsibility in not cheating, not plagiarizing. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Amrita. As an academic myself, I completely agree with you. Rather than investing in systems and processes that catch those who plagiarize, why not don't put in the concept of plagiarism from the start? There's a lot of creative ways to get your students to illustrate. Do they understand the particular concept of or not? I like the experimentation period that I had throughout the past 18 months, redesigning things, reviewing the questions that we're asking, and most importantly, addressing the question of, is final exam the real mark to show that your students do learn throughout the semester? In my subject, at least, no. Apparently, it doesn't need to go into final exam. The formative assessment throughout the semester is sufficient enough. So we have reached 10:57 in the morning. So thank you again to Dr. Ireen and team for that wonderful first-hand experience presentation. I suppose those are the information that we need to look at teaching and learning, especially at the time of pandemic. So let us go through 3-minute break. Have your tea, coffee, quick washroom break. We'll come back again at 11 in the morning. So that we will move on to the next session where we listen to the other side of the process. Okay, so 3 minutes break starting now. Recording. Now, for the next 45 minutes or so, we'll be having experience sharing from the other side of the table. There's academics, administrators, management, researchers who are doing doing work on what is teaching and learning with international students before the pandemic. So we have with us 3 very respected, renowned colleagues. Let's begin with Associate Professor Dr. Yazrina Yahya. She is the Deputy Director at the Higher Education Leadership Academy, Ministry of Higher Education Malaysia. So we will start off our session with Dr. Yazrina's session. Dr. Yazrina.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Doria. Assalamualaikum, peace be upon you, and good day, everyone, wherever you are. All right. Now, let me just allow me to share my screen. I hope I'll be able to do so. Okay, just bear with me. Now, can you guys see that? Okay, what number is it? Okay, let me see. Okay, you're able to see that, right? Cool. Now, what I'm going to talk about, if you see the title, Eat, Pray, and Love, all right, with international students. We've listened to Ali, Lazarus, and Lily this morning, despite, Doria, the technicality, the online session and all that. But having said that, if you look aside from what Dr. Doria has mentioned early on, about the conclusion of the particular, session, what we can see is that there are a few main things that we need to look, all right, before we handle international students. And this is not, I'm not talking about technicality. Okay, part of my duty and some of my colleagues, which is Dr. Sam and Dr. Jasvir, will be talking later on. But what we need to do is actually to understand the international students and who are they, Now, if you look at my drawings there, who are the international students? I come from the background of a practitioner, right? I worked at the international office for almost 9 years. And I was there looking at, how to get along with the international students. So when we are at either the international office, or we are the academics, or we are the person who handle international students, number one, we need to know who are they. Right? They are undergraduate, they can be full-time, they can be exchange students, they can be interns, they can be summer students who come over for summer, and they can be the postgraduate, the ones that you listened to this morning, who are full-time, doing your research work. And some of them could come just for a period of time to do their research attachment or their mobility. Now, they come from all over the world. So you listen this morning, you listen Lily, who came from China, Lazarus came from Africa, and then Ali, if I'm not mistaken, came from, I'm not too sure whether from the Arab countries, if I'm not mistaken, Or was it
Palestine. I think, Rizan, is it correct?
Yes,
Okay.
it's correct. Palestine.
Yeah, from Palestine. I mean, those are from just those respective countries, but we do have students who may come from the European, who may come from Australia, who may come from ASEAN. So they come from all over places, from all walks of life. All right, so you listen to what were their problems. So if you look, number one, we can look from two different perspectives. All right, one is from the international students' perspective, then the other one from the academics or practitioners like me from my perspective. And we are all talking about the online. So that's what my diagram is all about. So I'm not giving you the solution, but things for you to ponder when you take that home. These are the things that you need to look into. Now, from the students' perspective, before the pandemic, students come over face to face to our university here in Malaysia, all right? But have you ever thought what were they thinking before they come, all right? Now, students like yourself, if you put yourself in those shoes or their shoes before they come, what would you think about? Where am I going? Okay, I know where I'm going, which university I'm going. How is it? How is the support system? What's the requirement? All this information needs to be available. And we can't assume, if I move that, if I am the practitioner or the person who's handling the students, I can't assume that they know everything if I don't make sure that the information is available. So before they come, you need to think, what is it that they want to know, right? If they are a postgraduate students, like Lily was saying, how about the support? Would there be workshops? All right, have we prepared them for that? And like Ali was mentioning, and Lazarus was mentioning, the online, if you're going to do it online, or if it's system-wise, do we have a specific training? Or are we assuming that they are just like our local students who would be, tip-top on the spot, they know what to do, right? Now, before the pandemic, when arriving, how do we accept them? Do we invite, do we take them from the airport, all right? Or do we take that back home, to the college? Do we brief them? These are the kind of things. And during their stay, how was their experience? So this is when, if you listen carefully to the three students who had mentioned, and also to Dr. Amrita just now and Dr. Norizan, is particularly very much when the students are emphasizing on relationship and support system. All right. So basically, that's what we need to do when we want to, eat, pray, and love them. When we want to be with them, they need to, we need to be with them, and they need to be with us. So these are the things that we need to learn. And of course, before coming, when arriving, during that stay, before they leave, that they will take all those good memories. okay, with them. All right. So apparently, we really need to take a look at the whole, how we actually handle these students. And different students have different culture, has different way of doing things, different expectations. We can't be assuming. All right. It is very, very important. Okay. This is when I go to the next one. It is very, very important for us who is handling or who will be handling the international students to look at it from a different perspective. Right? If you listen to Dr. Amrita, see how does she handle the students? It's particularly a relationship, is the connection, is how she talks with the students and understanding their expectations. And you can't assume everyone is like Dr. Amrita. No, we can't. Okay, as a university, if you are the practitioners who's handling the international office or an academic who will be handling the international students, these are the things that we need to look into. I'm going to leave the online first. All right, now I'm moving into the academic and the universities, because the online and the expectations of the academic, Dr. Jasvir and Dr. Sam is going to look at it. So it's things for you to ponder. All right, for us who will be receiving the students, we need to wonder, what is it that we want to know? We can't be assuming. Look at your website, look at your branding, and you know, how do you put those informations online? Have you ever thought about it? All right, so in handling international students in a university is a collective effort. It's not just merely by an individual. Most of the time, the students have their process because they don't get information. They're not stupid. All right, mind you, sorry for the word. They are not smart students. They are smart students. And that's why they're able to study abroad. So we have to treat them, okay, smartly. And Dr. Chanda just now mentioned about plagiarism. Yes. So because they come from different cultures, different background, things maybe different from their own country when they grew up. So when they come here, so what are our expectations? That needs to be relayed clearly, right? So now from the academics, so the universities, what are the things that we need to do? From our perspective, number one, the most important thing I would say is your intercultural competency. Does any individual who handles the international students, do you have the intercultural competency? What is it? All right, so these are the things. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You need to come to a certain course to be able to know what is intercultural competency, what is the competency that's required. All right, it's particularly, of course, in order for you to be able to understand, you have to put yourself in the other people's shoe. Right? We can't have, most of the time, when I was at the international office, the experience is that when I see an Arabic students come in, you know, some people would have thought, they're Arabic students, are very difficult people. All right. Or if you see some African students come in, then you have the assumption, I'm so scared of that. Something like that. Right? Or if you see an European students come in, then you change, you become more hospitable. You greet them, you entertain them. So why is that? Those are all assumptions that you have, or somebody or the people has in their mind, basically. So we need to be able to understand, you know, interculturally, different people has different ways of doing things, and that's how their culture is. So that's how then only you'll be able to embrace and understand them. But how many of us who sits at the university or who's teaching international students are given those competencies, right? And on top of that, we need to be able, right, to have that universal values. What I call universal values are values that everyone shares, be it whether you're a Christian, you're a Buddhist, you're a Hindu, or you're a Muslim, or any other religion, right? You've got that universal values, meaning that you want to do good. You want to make sure that the person, the student particularly, will be able to have a good time. Okay, so what are the values that we share together? So these are what I would say at the end of the day, your communication with your students. Yeah, we were talking just now. I think what was it? Dr. Amrita was saying about creativity. Now, during the pandemic, and we're still in the pandemic, all right, that some of the students, like Ali, was having difficulty on the vaccination. He has to go back. Or even when the students wants to come in, you know, it costs them a lot because they have to do the vaccination and they probably have to do the quarantine And where do they go and do the quarantine and all sorts of, there are a lot of questions that comes into their mind. All right. So if we're going to do it online, how can we do it creatively, especially when it is a technical course? When it is a social science course, it's much, I wouldn't say easier, but simpler, probably because you can vary your technique. But if it is a technical course, you know, learning into very much into technology, when the students are away and far, and when they can't go into the lab, put yourself in their shoe, their worriness. How can we go about? So it requires us as an academic to think creatively. How do we go about that? So this is a thing that we need to know. That's why I say I have no solutions. Even if I have the solutions, there are things that we can do later. Yeah. So it's things for you to ponder. We've got to come up with innovation. Right? Does that innovation means leaving it up to all your online platform? Yeah. You heard Lazarus was saying some of the students come from a different background. If you know they come from the Africa when they were small, they don't have that very much technology, probably depending on which country that they or state that they are from, right? So you can't expect them to know everything just like that, to talk new. You know, if you can't teach them, then provide them the courses, right? Beforehand, all this information before they embark into the journey as the students, because you don't want them to waste this time. Because you heard about Ali when they had so much problems financially, because not all of them, you know, have a scholarship like Malaysians do. They come and with their father or mother, or they have to work, and you know how difficult it is for them to find work over here. So we need to think somehow a person as an academic definitely needs to know the background of the students, not just merely accepting the students. I've got 10 international students in my particular class, not knowing what their background was, okay, or is, right? And this is when we talk about diplomacy and negotiation, right? We need to have that diplomacy. Often people say Malaysians are very diplomatic people. Right? But sometimes we forget, we assume that the students are like our local students. We don't talk their language. Okay, and we need to negotiate. Okay, this is when it comes. We talk about teaching and learning, all right? Especially when you're doing online, negotiation is very, very important because let's say you have 10, like Dr. Doria, I know she has students from China, from Europe, from Australia, the different time zones. You know, so what time shall you have your class? The 11 o'clock end, and worse still, when, you know, these students, especially if they are undergraduate, they've already got their schedule. Okay, they've already got their schedule. And sometimes people who make...
Yazrina?
Yep, my time is up.
Sorry for, yeah, so because I'm waving my friend over here saying that the time is up.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
all right, sorry about that.
No,
okay, so I'll just wrap up. So these are the things that you need to know, the time zones and how to handle conflicts. So basically, I have that online for the international students. These are the things that you need to look into. And I would leave it up to Dr. Sam and Dr. Jasvir to talk about that. So yeah, that's about it, Dr. Doria. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yazrina. So sorry for cutting you short, but then we have two other speakers on hand. So now what I like about Dr. Yazrina's presentation is a big picture overview. When you have this group of students with you, what do they need? How can we make them feel present enough when they to study? They have their own issues, they have their own concerns. They may come from different backgrounds, but their intention is to come and learn. So how do we enable that for our students? So